Hi everyone, thank you again for joining us for this is episode 2 of Bedford Talks, and not in the studio, we're not in the studio anymore. This is actually on location at MapSim. You can see we're at a MapSim event in Eureka Springs. So thankfully we have Dixie Dixon and some other really cool creatives here. And so as you guessed it, Dixie Dixon is our second guest. And we're glad to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Excited to be here. What a cool event you guys put together. It's an honor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and the type of photography you shoot.
Yeah, so I currently shoot fashion and advertising. I'm actually based out of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, and so while we shoot stills, video, I direct a lot of TV commercials, anything advertising related, I shoot in a fashion style way. Whether it's, fashion or portrait or whatever it is I'm shooting, it's usually for companies, for businesses, so it's all commercial photography essentially.
And is that a mix of print and digital, I'm assuming?
Yeah, big mix. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love print. Now there's so much digital between like the social media and web banners and ads and whatnot, but I do shoot a lot of billboards and things like that too for print.
Have you had digital signage? So you've had it on big printed billboards. Have you had like digital signage like in Vegas and places like that?
Yeah, digital signage is cool too, like in-store digital signage, billboards and things like that. So yeah, just kind of run the gamut.
I knew about you from advertisements for Nikon. I know you've been with Nikon for a long time.
Yes.
And it seems like you've done some great work for the brand, pushing the brand forward.
Thank you.
And then of course that's your personal preference for your own for the work you do for clients.
Yeah.
Tell us about how long you've been doing that and what that relationship's been like.
Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun. Nikon is kind of like a big family. Now I feel like I know everyone so well. I've been working with them for so long, but my dad gave me my first Nikon when I was 12. And so I've sort of been a die-hard Nikon fan my whole career. I have had some other jobs where the photographer, like when I was first starting out, I was doing assisting, where they made me shoot other brands, and I never liked them as well. I never thought they were as sharp. So yeah, I've just always loved the Nikon brand. And then I had this dream of working with them. I actually put them on my vision board, like way back in the day. And then I ended up getting introduced. I won a contest at WPPI. It was like an emerging photographer contest. And so I ended up going to WPPI, and then I met the president of Rangefinder magazine, and he introduced me to a marketing director at Nikon, who I'm really good friends with now, but he ended up like scrolling through my work in one of my portfolios and loved my images, so I kept him updated for about a year, and eventually they hired me to shoot a campaign for one of their point and shoot cameras, so like one of the Cool Pix line back in the day. And then they launched the Ambassador program, I think in 2014. So I got to be a part of that and been working with them on different campaigns and stuff ever since. So grateful for it.
You don't have to give a date, but when did you get into this line of work?
So I actually got into this line of work. I have only had photography jobs, and so I had Little League. I was a Little League photographer, all the cheesy sports pictures, I shot weddings in college. I shot portraits. Then I graduated from college, and I actually applied for an investment firm job. And I got the job, but then my mentor at the time, he said, Dixie, if you really want to pursue photography, you should just pursue it now before you get locked into a lifestyle, because obviously those are investment jobs, pay quite well, which is nice. But he's like, you don't want to get locked in that lifestyle, whereas photography might take a little while to break into. And so I ended up turning down, after I got that job, turning it down and then going full into photography after that. And actually, he hired me, he was my first client, he hired me to shoot his daughter's wedding. So that was amazing, that's like get right in there, and he gave me my first gig, and then I have literally been shooting ever since. So I've really mainly had photography jobs throughout my whole life, which is crazy. I love it.
How did you land on the fashion portrait side?
So my junior year, I Googled fashion photography study abroad, and there was one through Syracuse University that was in London. They did this big study abroad program in London and Prague, and I applied for that program and got in. I even took out a loan for it to get to go, and I paid that off right after school. But so I got to go to London and Prague and study with a world-renowned fashion photographer, Jeff Licata. And he is just incredible. He showed me everything from like how to choose models to how to direct them and do hair and makeup and wardrobe and just all the ins and outs of the fashion industry. And I just soaked that up like a sponge. I was all in after that. And then I got back and went straight into trying to break into the fashion photography kind of niche of photography, but it takes a while to break into.
How long were you in London?
Yeah, so I was in London for a summer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, once I figured out that's what I wanted to do, I was just like full focused into fashion. While I was still shooting other things like weddings and portraits and stuff to pay the bills, you know, it's obviously important. I was, you know, shooting the personal work, the fashion work, and I was mainly showing that work so that I could try to attract those types of clients, and that's sort of how I've broken into it. You know, you got to really show the type of work that you want to be shooting. Essentially, we did scouted locations, figured out how to work with studio lighting. I learned so much in that program because TCU, where I went to college, was I majored in business, so I knew that I wanted to figure out the business side of things in order to actually make a living at photography, because it's important.
Yeah, you got to feed yourself.
Yeah, you got to feed yourself, right? So I figured out the business side, but they didn't really have like a fashion photography program there. So I only got the basics, which the teachers there were great. Really learned a lot about the basics of photography and whatnot through them, but I didn't learn a whole lot about fashion. So that's where that study abroad program really was just incredible. Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, it was a fun experience.
Is Dixie Dixon your real name, like your legal name?
It is good, very good question, and a lot of people think it is, but my mom, actually she almost named me Dallas Dixon, believe it or not.
Okay.
So it's just as hokey, but my real name's Lindsay.
Okay.
So Lindsay Dixon, and then I got the name Dixie. There was a few Lindsays on the soccer team growing up, like in 6th grade, and so my friend nicknamed me Pixie Dixie at the time, and then eventually Dixie just stuck. And they're like, you know what, you seem more like a Dixie than a Lindsay, so and it's easier to spell, so I just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go by Dixie now, moving forward, so.
So what's an image of yours that maybe a time you were starting out or a time when you were kind of getting into your career, what's an image that stands out to you, an image that reminds you of a time when you were learning? Oh,
right. There's actually, you know, there's 2 images that stand out to me. When I was in that study abroad program, there was one of this beautiful 14-year-old model. She had this gorgeous gown on and this big, you know, huge hair and makeup looked beautiful. And it's a window light portrait that I shot, and it ended up winning an award, you know, when I got back from that study abroad program. And like at that moment, I felt like I was starting to really understand photography on a deeper level, and the idea of lighting and composition and posing and expression, and it all sort of came together in that shot. And then fast forward, like I was shooting everything mainly with the 50mm lens, and then all of a sudden I started using a 180, which is an old film lens that my dad passed on to me. And I just blew me away how much more that beautiful compression effect really just made it take it to the next level with when I was shooting swimsuit models at the time. And I remember looking back at the images like, wow, that's such a huge difference from the 50 to that 180. And that was like a light bulb moment that I love these longer lenses. So that's a good question.
It's a different feel. You know, when you go 135 or longer, you're like, can I really do portraits? You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, if you step farther away, you can get the full body, or you can get the 3/4 body. But that compression, sometimes it sells the image way better than an 85 or a 50.
It just makes it like super dreamlike, because there's this new shot that I did of a model and a giraffe, and I think I used the 105 lens on that, and it just compressed the background really beautifully, and the model with the giraffe, and it just, man, those long lenses just look beautiful. Can't get enough of those.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I guess this is kind of the desert island scenario. If you had one lens and you're, you know, not that you're worried about like food and like clean water and stuff, you know. That's right. If you had one lens, like what's one lens you always gravitate toward?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Can I name 2?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I
There's
can
room
take
in the
2
bag.
lenses with me to the desert island. So I would say the 105, and just love that portrait lens. The compression is gorgeous. It's just a really nice focal length, especially for headshots. And then the 105 for everything. I'm sorry, the 85.
Oh, right.
So the 105 and the 85, I've been shooting with that new Nikon 85 1.2, and I am completely obsessed with that lens.
So you like shooting long. You like the compression of long. And
Love those long lenses every day.
it's really cool.
All day. They're definitely the fave. Yeah, there's just something about beauty and like the fashion photography that it just compresses everything so nicely, and the background looks iconic. It just has this like dreamlike quality, especially at like when you're shooting 85 1.2 at 1.2. It just makes everything creamy. Like the eyes are tack sharp, and everything just falls out of focus so beautifully. Like you don't even have to do barely any retouching. It's awesome. So definitely a big fan.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, keeping the innocent, anonymous, whether that's a client or whoever, what is an embarrassing story if you want to share? What is an embarrassing story of maybe a time you were on a shoot?
So when I was very first starting out, very, very green, I got a new camera, and I noticed that it was set on auto ISO. And at the time I didn't really understand what that was, even though it's very self-explanatory. It's like automatically setting your ISO. Well, when I arrived on set, I could not figure out how to get it off of that setting. And this was my first campaign I ever shot, very green, like should have played with my camera beforehand and really understood it. Because I've been a Nikon shooter my entire career. I didn't think there'd be any issues. I had just upgraded my camera, and it was just on that auto setting. I couldn't figure out how to get it off of it. So I think I even ran to the restroom, grabbed the manual. I was looking through the manual in the restroom, and I'm like, where is this setting? So luckily when I got out, the assistant, who was a surfer, had figured out, he shot another brand, he had figured out how to get it off of that setting, and I was able to set it to ISO 400, which it needed to be, but man, it was a very stressful experience because there was about 20 people on set waiting for me to start shooting. They're like, where's Dixie? Why are we not shooting yet? And I'm like, I can't figure out how to get it off the setting. So that was very embarrassing. The client never knew.
That's the big part of it.
Yeah, that's the big part of it. They never knew. They love what we created, and it turned out great. So that's all that matters.
Well, let that be a lesson. Your manual, I know it's not the most exciting thing, but like have it on you, or like at least have it on your phone.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times having it on my phone and doing like a word search and like finding it and going, okay, that's what it is. That's why it's acting, why I think it's acting weird. The camera's operating how it's supposed to work, but I just don't know how to use it,
Yeah, that's very important. It's good to have. Even we still use it to this day sometimes.
Oh yeah.
On certain things that we're like, wait, why is it doing this? Or it's good to have it. It's good to have it on set.
What is some advice you would give to either your younger self or someone that is like in high school or in college wanting to make this type of photography part of their career, or maybe their entire career?
Ooh, I would say the best advice that I got, if you have a dream to do photography, there is a way for you to do it. You can definitely go after it and pursue your passion and make a living doing it. We are case in point, and I literally had no connections in photography. I had no idea how to shoot, and I've sort of learned everything as I go, and you learn from other photographers and mentors, and there is a way to do it if you want it bad enough. So I would definitely say if you have a passion for it, go for it. And then also, you've got to go out and shoot the type of work for free, basically, that you want to be shooting and get paid to shoot, because your portfolio is essentially your resume. Like I had a resume in college after my business school, and I never showed it to anyone. Everyone just wanted to see my portfolio. So you have to go out and basically shoot that portfolio of your dream work that you want to be shooting, show that to clients, then hopefully people will start hiring you and paying you to shoot that type of dream work, so that you don't get pigeonholed into shooting stuff you don't like. If you don't like shooting weddings, you don't want to be showing a bunch of wedding work, obviously. Right. So you got to really show the type of work that you want to be shooting. I think that's probably the best advice that I could give. That's really how you get into your niche photography.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So on every shoot, what is one accessory that is a must-have? One accessory that always goes in your bag, you always check it before you leave the house. What is an essential accessory?
Okay, so nothing, no camera lenses, like something else.
Camera or lens, maybe even lights. Like, is there like, I don't know, like a lens blower or like a microfiber cloth, something like that?
Definitely. I mean, so I've got my camera bag, I've got my pro photo, lighting, but one accessory that I don't leave without is insulation board.
Okay.
You're like, what is that? For what?
For bounce and light?
Yes, for bounce light in there. Yeah, so it's we just half it. You go to the hardware store and grab a big piece of insulation board, cut it in half, and it makes the most amazing reflector, and it's super steady. And a lot of times we'll cut a little tiny hole in it so you can see through it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can bounce that light back in there, and it's a little bit soft because it's a little frosted.
Right.
And it doesn't it's not flimsy like those flimsy reflectors, and so it's kind of nice.
You're talking like the 2-inch foam?
Yeah, the 2-inch
Home
foam.
Depot? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And it's
cool.
just silver, and so I use that on almost every shoot.
So what's an intangible thing you keep with you, or you're always thinking about on a shoot?
Oh, absolutely. I think as far as an intangible, the most important thing you have to have as a photographer, and that I always keep in mind, is the problem-solving muscle. It's really a muscle, and the more that you use it, the better you're going to get at it. So instead of freaking out when something goes wrong, because there's always stuff that goes wrong during photo shoots. I mean, you cannot predict every scenario situation that's going to happen in a shoot. And so if you can have this mindset of, no, we're just going to keep working it, working and figuring out different ways to do things, whether it be lighting or posing or wardrobe, and keep massaging it a little bit, you're going to always, if you have the mindset that you're going to problem solve and it's going to work out, and you work with that muscle a lot, it always works out some way. And so I always keep that in the back of my head, so I don't get super stressed out in the moment when things aren't going exactly to plan. So utilizing that problem solving muscle, I think it's the most important as a photographer.
That's really cool.
Yeah, very important, I think. It takes lots of practice, because boy, I can freak out inside.
Something always goes wrong.
Yes, something always is not as planned, so you just roll with it and you keep creating, and shoot, if you do mess something up, then you learned a huge lesson.
Right.
Yeah, but usually things work out, so grateful for that.
As long as the photos turn out, as long as the client's happy.
Exactly.
You can let the rest of that go, right?
Amen to that. Exactly. 100%.
Well, thank you again, Dixie. What's a good way for people to follow you on social media, want to see your work?
Absolutely. They can follow me on Instagram. I'm probably most active. Dixie Dixon wasn't available, so I had to put the I am in front of it. So it's I am Dixie Dixon. And then my website's dixiedixon.com. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
I really appreciate
Thank you so
This was
much.
Fun. Perfect.
All right. Well, if you have any other suggestions, or or if you want to see or if you have any other questions that you want us to ask other people, please put it there in the comments. We want to know what you like and what you don't like about these interviews. All right. Thank you, everyone.